Jax, the funny one, has undoubtedly been the most talked about character since the series began. Many viewers resonate with his sarcastic, abrasive wit, while others can't stand him, dismissively labeling him as insufferable and fake. But regardless of which side you're on, it's impossible not to want to dig deeper into his backstory, his motivations, and above all, his true personality. It has become increasingly clear that his comic relief persona, the archetype whose only job is to keep things interesting, is merely a facade. It's a defense mechanism designed to keep his companions at arm's length and prevent himself from getting hurt again. But is Jax's behavior actually justified? While we wait for the series finale to hopefully answer all our questions, today we're going to analyze everything we know about the Purple Rabbit so far, and perhaps even speculate on the uncertain fate that awaits him. Throughout the series, we've discussed Jax on multiple occasions, from his potential abstraction in every new episode to the possibility of a redemption arc. However, with the release of this latest episode, we can finally gain a deeper understanding of the Purple Rabbit and speculate on the traumas that led him to adopt the obnoxious persona that grates on almost everyone in the circus. The most critical point to analyze is the punishment scenario Kane forced the cast into after they insulted him to distract him while Kinger looked for a way to shut him down, a plan that, as we know, ended quite badly. In this sequence, we see a remarkably vulnerable Jax, feeling profoundly inferior and unable to defend himself. This likely represents bullying he endured during his childhood or adolescence. The fact that his skin is forcibly stripped away could symbolize a past trauma where someone exposed his most vulnerable side against his will, an embarrassing core that became a source of trauma due to the mockery of those who saw it. This may have been the catalyst for his tough guy sarcastic facade, a defense mechanism to ensure no one would ever laugh at him again. From then on, Jax would be the one doing the laughing. We've seen time and again that nothing bothers him more than feeling like someone is mocking him or making him feel inferior. Gangle, Jax's favorite victim, has provoked this feeling more than anyone else. He constantly picks on her, teaming up with her during adventures more out of obligation than friendship, and making her suffer at every turn, like threatening to reveal her secrets in the Candy Canyon Kingdom, or literally turning her into his prey in the first suggestion box adventure in Chapter 5. However, in that same episode, specifically during the softball game, Gangle suggests dressing Jax in a maid outfit. The majority agrees, and Jax becomes visibly, excessively angry. He seems to reach this level of rage specifically because it was Gangle, the person he considers the lowest in the circus hierarchy, who proposed it, and was the first to laugh at his expense. This is reinforced in the nightmare sequence of episode 8, where the shadows mocking him have faces strikingly similar to Gangle's comedy mask. This is likely why he tries to break her mask at every possible opportunity. That face reminds him of his childhood traumas, which is exactly why he made her his primary target. There is, in fact, a different interpretation of these punishment scenarios that, while perhaps feeling a bit forced, is very intriguing. This theory considers the specific grievance each member yells at Kane to vent their frustrations. For example, Pomni tells Kane he doesn't actually care about any of them. It's ironic then that her punishment involves Gummigoo, an NPC she grew fond of in episode 2. At the start of the series, she gave more importance to this NPC than to any of the other humans trapped in the circus, people she could have genuinely empathized with since they are suffering the exact same fate. Ragatha even mentions this in episode 4. While under the effects of the stupid sauce, she tells Gangle that Pomni is more worried about flirting with her NPC friend than actually spending time with them. Similarly, in episode 8, Ragatha tells Kane he never made them feel at home. Consequently, her nightmare gives her exactly that, a home, where her mother makes her feel inferior, pelting her with sharp, hateful words of contempt. As I mentioned, this theory might not fit perfectly across the board. The irony in Gangle's and Zubal's nightmares feels a bit stretched, but it works perfectly for Jax. Jax reproaches Kane for his constant lying. It's highly telling that his nightmare sequence highlights what we've long suspected. Jax's sarcasm is a constant lie he tells himself and his companions to hide his true self. It's incredibly hypocritical that Jax of all people is the one calling Kane out out for being a liar. Another detail is that the three figures stripping his skin are the shadows of Pomni, Kaufmo, and Ribbit. It is Ribbit who pulls his ears to reveal his true form. This could be a reference to an event during the snow adventure that seemingly triggered the end of his friendship with Ribbit. To understand this pivotal character in Jax's life, we have to look back at the moments where the funny one facade began to crack. Jax's first truly genuine moment occurs in episode 5. During the picnic adventure, he is much more honest about his feelings. He only allows himself to be slightly vulnerable around Pomni, appearing to trust her just enough to share his actual thoughts. He asks if Gangle is actually capable of being happy. While he's asking Pomni, it feels like an internal question he's asking himself. If we look deeper, even though the question is about Gangle, it's a projection. He's wondering if he can ever be happy despite everything he's lost, referring most likely to Ribbit and Kaufmo. His relationship with Ribbit seems to be the turning point for his current attitude. This trauma is what prevents him from getting too close to his companions. He avoids affection to avoid getting hurt. But what exactly happened with Ribbit? First, we must remember that Ribbit hasn't appeared directly in the series yet, only receiving minor mentions in recent episodes. We only know her name thanks to concept art shared by Gooseworks on social media. We see a glimpse of her during the intermission of Chapter 5, where Jax pauses in front of her door, which is marked as abstracted. This continues in episode 6. After Jax and Pomni are attacked by Zooble while trying to get her to come out by singing Daisy Bell, Pomni goes after her, and Jax is left alone. He first looks at Kaufmo's door with an expression of resentment and nostalgia, which, combined with his micro-expression during Kaufmo's funeral in episode 2, suggests he holds a certain level of contempt for his old friend. But when he looks at Ribbit's door, his face reflects pure shock. He immediately fakes a smile, pretending he saw nothing, and jumps back into the adventure. This makes his deep trauma regarding his old friend clear. We get more clues during the Able adventure. Upon entering Kane's office, we see he keeps memories of every adventure he's created. Jax stares intently at a snow-themed adventure. If you listen closely, there is very subtle dialogue. While there's no official transcript, the community has deduced it's an argument between Ribbit and Jax, possibly the last adventure they truly shared as friends. It's likely the two were very similar in attitude, trying not to think about their reality and focusing solely on enjoying the adventures regardless of the consequences, playing mean pranks and causing chaos. But sooner or later, everyone reflects on their imprisonment in the digital circus, questioning if they are truly free or just Kane's puppets. Being such close friends, one of them likely felt safe enough to express these existential doubts to the other, probably Jax. But due to her own joking nature, Ribbit might have dismissed or mocked Jax's concerns. It's possible those jokes hit a nerve, reminding him of the childhood bullying he vowed never to endure again. He likely reacted defensively and hurtfully toward his friend, much like he did with Pomni at the end of episode 6. The moment he started feeling vulnerable, he lashed out, telling her he had been playing with her the whole time just to mock her for being so gullible. However, unlike Pomni, Ribbit likely took the purple rabbit's words to heart. Feeling abandoned by her best friend, she slowly spiraled into abstraction. Meanwhile, Kaufmo, caught in the middle of this conflict, was likely ignored by both. He opted to distance himself, interacting more with the others, telling jokes to Ragatha and Gangle, and sharing thoughts about finding an exit with Kinger. This likely caused Jax to view him as a traitor or two-faced, someone who was only with them for convenience, never stopping to consider that his own actions might have driven Kaufmo away. All of this led Jax to gravitate toward Gangle. He viewed her as the weakest member of the group, concluding she would never rebel against him because she lacked the courage. This ensured he would never repeat what happened with Ribbit. He might even convince himself he's doing it for Gangle's own good, bullying her to toughen her up and force her to see the world his way. This is likely why he genuinely thought they were friends, only to realize how wrong he was when he saw how quickly she pushed him aside to spend time with Zooble, appearing happier and more confident, something he never achieved with this constant aggression. Once Ribbit affracted, there was no going back. Jax committed to the lie that he didn't care. repressing his feelings and doubling down on his funny one persona, pretending everyone else is just an archetype destined to play a role for eternity. Pomni's arrival gave him a new chance to replicate the Gangle formula through constant pranks. However, Pomni isn't Gangle. She saw right through his act because she took the time to know the other members, their paths, and their conflicts. She understood she wasn't the only one trapped. The others were suffering the same fate. By seeing them as humans with fears and dreams, she realized they were much more than just digital cartoons. Jax, however, chose to see them only as victims for his amusement, a defense mechanism to avoid reflecting on whether his actions are good or bad. As long as he's having fun, everything is fine. But without realizing it, Pomni's scrutiny started to affect him. She immediately spotted the falseness in his personality. Just as she did with the others, she began to dig into his emotions. She noticed the rabbit's genuine happiness at having a prank partner again, someone to enjoy an adventure with without overthinking existence. This moment of vulnerability was the trigger for Pomni to see the goodness in him. It didn't last long. The moment he felt exposed, he pushed her away, physically and emotionally, leading to their famous confrontation and Jack's first visible anxiety attack. Following this, we started seeing a completely different Jax, more depressed and withdrawn. This is where we first see his room, which many theorize reflects the childish side he tries to hide, the side that may have caused the initial bullying. It's a common scenario where adolescents feel ashamed of their childish tastes, forcing themselves to act mature while only being themselves in their safe space. However, there's another theory. The rooms are created solely by Kane, using their memories to create an ideal safe space. But if we look at Zubal's room, it's quite plain, featuring only mirrors, which, as we know from her punishment, make her incredibly uncomfortable with her appearance. It's possible the rooms reflect Kane's resentment toward the humans for not cooperating with his adventures. Jax's room might be his darkest secret, hidden so no one sees he isn't the cool guy he pretends to be. In his room, we see him look nostalgically at a photo of himself with Ribbit and Kaufmo drinking what looks like hot chocolate with marshmallows. Thanks to episode 8, we know this isn't from the snow adventure, but a spot at the top of the tent, a small place to rest and hang out. Interestingly, all these photographs are face down. They are painful memories he is unable to look at, yet he lacks the strength to throw them away. This indecision is the key to his psyche. He is unable to change, but equally unable to let go of what haunts him, remaining in a constant limbo between who he is and who he wants to be. The end of episode 7 made Jax his greatest fear clear. The way he kept his sanity was by pretending everything was fake and he was the only real one. Ironic, considering he mocked Pomni for thinking the same in episode 1. But in these latest episodes, the reality of the situation is setting in. After discovering Haebel's escape plan was just another one of Kane's adventures, he fell back into the belief that there is no escape and they must simply accept their archetypes. Despite his rage at Kane's lies, by the next chapter he acted as if it didn't matter, accepting that his arbitrary decision with the buttons was irrelevant. Everything changed when Pomni finally decided to ask a lucid Kinger what he knew about the circus. Seeing this unknown side of a companion he dismissed as crazy made him realize the gravity of their situation, causing him to flee before he could be seen panicking again. The latest update we have on Jax is the image glitch uploaded to social media, showing everyone analyzing the state of the circus after Kane's deletion, surrounded by ruins. Jax is still distant from the group. This suggests the series finale will finally define his fate. Will he continue with his facade or take the risk of being honest about his fears? Thanks to a leaked description of the theatrical finale, we know the cast must now confront their past traumas, likely referring to the abstracted beings in the cellar. Now that Kane is gone, nothing stops them from roaming the ruins. Somehow, we will learn the history of the circus and those who abstracted before Pomni. This might happen through the power of imagination Kinger mentioned in episode 8, which could be the key to calming the abstracted, or even restoring their stability. Either way, episode 9 will be the turning point for Jax. It's unlikely Gooseworks would leave such a beloved character's arc unresolved. All we can do is wait to see if the funny one will keep living his lie or finally take control of his own life.